Pitchers and catchers report. Pitchers and catchers report to the field.
I don't think there's anybody there, Coach.
What do you mean there's nobody there?
I mean, Mr. Manfred said we gotta lock them boys out.
Lock them out? Are you crazy? We got games to play. We got training to go. We not men who need to be out here learning the game, you know. We got to teach them some life skills, man. This just doesn't happen. Pitchers and catchers report to the field now. Welcome to Baseball Biz. I'm Mark Harbert, your host, and with me today is Mr. Brandon Noway, the co-host of Baseball Biz. And we're so glad to have you here. How you doing today, Brandon?
Well, Mark, I got a bone to pick with you, my guy. I spent most of my morning in the driveway waiting for you to come pick me up to take me to spring training yesterday, and you never showed up. You're lucky it was nice out. I just called it a day and went back inside. So, what's up, man?
I apologize, dude. I was all excited about it, you know, and it was thinking about. I'm sorry I didn't tell you that. We've been locked out, brother.
Oh.
I mean, you heard it earlier, pitchers and catchers report. Robbie said kibosh on it, and I'm sorry I didn't pick up the phone and let you know. I should have done that, but Robbie has left us all kind of hanging out there in the wind to see what's going to happen. Yeah, so what did you do to amuse yourself?
Well, I just went in and I watched the old reruns that they did on MLB Network. Pretend that it's baseball season again. But I do have good news for baseball fans, though, if you'd like to hear it.
Please share.
Well, this weekend, I had a shining moment. Like people say that they see the light and they have this big revelation or whatever it is. I saw something so amazing. The NFL officiating made Major League Umpires look confident this weekend in the big game. And if you watch that game, that was horrendously called. And I will say this, a lot of you out there will probably say, oh, well, they didn't call it on the Bengals, so karma. And if you don't know, Jalen Ramsey got it thrown down to the ground by his face mask, which should have been a penalty, I'll be fair.
Oh.
But I just got to say, you got to call the game the same way the entire 60 minutes. You can't change it up in the last 2 minutes like they did this year in the big game.
Gosh almighty, that was a crazy game, and I saw that moment. Now tell me, because obviously I'm not a football fan throughout the year. Don't they have instant replay? Couldn't everybody see that face mask was grabbed and that man thrown to the ground?
They said that they were going to have like the sky judge, as many people called it, to where they could like beam down to the officials and say something. But I think that was more for like turnovers and touchdowns and things like that. But I mean, that's something I think the refs should need help with. I mean, if they were doing their job or they weren't falling on the ground, they should have been able to see that. But I don't know. It's officiating in 2022.
Well, maybe they're still trying to catch up. I don't know, but you're right. MLB officiating has certainly shines up against this past week at the big game. What can I say, brother? Yeah, I mean, so officiating, like I said, for the MLB, you know, that shines. I just wish we could see him out there doing it. It's been crazy. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I was talking with you and I said, well, I've always recommended people go and watch what's going on with the minor leagues. You know, that there's a whole lot there. You feel like you can probably get closer to the field in most cases. There's an excitement. There's a locality. But I mean, actually have a local presence and awareness as opposed to maybe you're driving to a big city, maybe 2 or 3 hours away. So I love the minor leagues. And I know Rob Manfred loves them as much as I do because he's been wanting to make changes. You know, like back in 2019, he decided, you know what I need to do that will actually help this minor league baseball? One, we need a contraction. We need some severe weight loss, maybe waist too. And let's cut the teams by 25%. Let's cut 42 teams from the 160, and we're going to be doing so much better. Okay, Rob, What comes with that? What are some of the other things you're going to do? Why is that necessary? And you remember what he said? He had about like 4 different things, Brandon. I mean, let's see. We'll address each one of them, individually here in a moment. But it was inadequate facilities, travel, the amount of travel they had to do, going maybe 2 or 3 or 4 hours in a bus, drafting and signing players who weren't necessarily had any opportunity making it to the majors. Also, poor pay. I don't think those have really been met since 2019. I could be wrong.
It doesn't really sound like it's been met. I mean, if it has, I don't think that lawsuit would still be out there. But I mean, that's something that could easily have been solved if owners were willing to invest in their investments a little bit more.
Right. And when you say that lawsuit, are you talking about some of the teams that have, a few of them that have got together to sue the MLB on this, or actually there's some players who are suing as well on, I think, was it on the wages? Which one are you talking about?
Yeah, I was kind of more so talking about the players, but I honestly forgot about some of those teams that were suing MLB over their teams getting contracted.
Yeah. I think Staten Island Yankees, and there's a few others. I don't have it at my fingertips. And that's something I think we'll explore on another baseball biz, because there is so much that change in the minor leagues. To me, the minor leagues, like I said, are some of the most exciting baseball you can see because of being up close. People are fiercely trying to do their best for themselves and for their team to get elevated into the Major League Baseball. I hate anything that doesn't help nurture those players. But there's been some controversy with some things going on with minor leagues recently.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really won from this except, owners' pocketbooks. But because, I mean, it's hurting players that were playing for those teams. And I think it's hurting fans too, because how many of them have sort of lost an interest in MLB because they had a lower end team in their town or like the next town over.
Right.
How many of them wound up losing interest in baseball because of that?
More than I care to admit, I'm sure. But the treatment of these players, Brandon, I think that's something that's important too. We expect a lot from them. We're hoping to see some future player that we'll see out there on the diamond at Yankee Stadium or wherever your team may be, and they may or may not get there. But while we have them there, we need to treat them well. We need to feed them well. We need to house them well. There's been some challenges to say, should we even pay these young men? I mean, they have the privilege of trying out for a major league team. Should we pay these young men as they're going to spring training? What's going on with that?
I don't think it's like a big movement. I think it's more like a topic, because it really didn't come up until about a few days ago, where there are some lawyers that are working for MLB that are saying that, minor league invitees shouldn't be paid there. Basically like, oh, well, you're here, you should be grateful for the experience. And MLB, they paid somebody like $700 an hour to come up with the statement. And this is from MLBTradeRumors.com.
Okay.
And I'll just read this quote off of there. An MLB lawyer argued that the players should not be given monetary compensation because the training they receive is their payment, which they value at $2,200 per week. Quote, this figure is an estimate of the cost plaintiffs would have had to incur that they attended a baseball prospecting camp instead of participating in the minor leagues. And that is from Denise Martin, the senior VP of NERA Economic Consulting.
Okay, so this is an argument that Denise put out there on behalf of Major League Baseball. This wasn't just some person sitting on the sidelines. This person was actually there to speak for MLB. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's what I've gathered from this.
I don't get it. I mean, okay, you got a kid you love it, and they love the game. And as they're growing up, maybe you get them on a travel team, and you're paying an ungodly amount of money for that. But hey, if a major league team sees a possibility of a player and allows them to walk on the field for minor league training, and Denise is saying, what, $2,000 or $3,000 worth of value for that young man. I mean, I guess if you're going to charge him for a traveling team, why wouldn't you charge him for that as well?
The first thought I had when I first read these articles about it is how many people or how many players, if they were to actually keep doing this, how many players end up saying, no, I can't do this because I can't afford it,
Yeah.
because, they might have families they have to take care of, and they can't afford to go how many months, well, a month or two without being paid anything when they're basically paid nothing before, and they have to stay at their normal jobs.
Well, that's right. I mean, and that's why they're saying some of the players were talking back, and rightfully so. I was kind of kidding about paying for the privilege to go to minor league training camp. We heard Coach there at the beginning. He's calling all those catchers and pitchers to report and saying they come out here and learn some life skills. That was one of the things. I don't think it was necessarily Denise, but somebody else is saying, well, the value of it is that, we're not going to pay them a wage while they're here for a couple of weeks for spring training. But guess what? They're going to learn some very meaningful life skills here during minor league that will be able to carry them through life above and beyond baseball. God. Oh.
You told me that. And another thing that popped into mind first thing, how many people say high school provides meaningful life experiences? I am 22 years old. I have not really used any of my experiences from high school in my adult life. And I've been out of high school for a few years now at this point. Well, that's what I thought it was the equivalent to.
Well, I agree with you. One of the few life skills I learned in high school was duck. Here it comes, duck. Get out of the way. But oh my gosh, no, I understand it completely, and it tickles me. They say this. It's like hearing some of these politicians out there, and put whatever party you want to on there, because they're all. I have a little respect for most of them, but when they say some of these things, you think, I'm sorry, do you think we're complete idiots? You're asking somebody to come in and train for a team, and even if they're not going to make it to the majors, you wind up using them for batting practice. Hey, we need Charlie out here to hit the ball, so the guys that we have out here fielding who may have some capability. Well, guess what, Charlie? You're getting a life experience, and we're glad you're here, buddy. We're glad to have you here for the next few weeks.
I saw this tweet, and it's from the article that MLB Trade Rumors wrote. It's from Nick Kuzia. He pitched in AA and AAA for the Padres last season, and he put on Twitter, venting his frustration to everybody. And he put, quote, I wish I could go to the grocery store and pay with an opportunity. I think most places only accept US dollars. We'll keep you updated.
Man, it's crazy. But I can't remember, was it him or one of the other ones that was talking about, well, my life experience that I had to, before I was my part-time job when I wasn't out there playing minor league ball was, flipping burgers at Burger King. And guess what? I had to train for 2 weeks to be able to flip a burger properly, and they paid me. They paid me at least minimum wage. And here I am coming out here at a minor league field with a multi-billion-dollar industry, and you can't give me lunch money? Come on. Jeez.
I think even going through boot camp in the U.S. military, you still get paid. It's not like a ton of money, but you're still getting paid money.
Yeah. So, but it's really crazy because, this is one of the things that Bob is going to said he was going to take care of. We can go back again, looking at inadequate facilities, looking at travel issues, looking at poor pay, and drafting and signing players who don't have a realistic shot to make it to the majors. Those are the things that our good buddy Mr. Manfred put out there. So if we look at that, and then you're going to tell me you're not going to pay him at all, well, good Lord, man, where does that make any sense at all?
This whole thing, it just seems sloppily put together. Like there was he says it's like one baseball, but this wasn't like one idea. They're just kind of slapping it together almost at this point. Kind of like what you do with your science projects in high school.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, you know me too well. I'll tell you what. That volcano I did for the science project didn't really hold up too well. Kind of too much Alka-Seltzer and speed over too much. But anyway, well, here's another thing. I was talking about a guy. He's an attorney for a lot of the minor leaguers. I think you pulled this up, Garrett Brocious, and he said, all of a sudden, They aren't employees during the time periods where we call it training, even though they're operating under the same employment contract that requires them to perform services, quote, throughout the calendar year. I'll say it again. It makes no sense to me. And something, folks, you all may or may not know, of course, Major League Baseball is there. The players have had a union since 1968, but that's for the Major League Baseball players. Minor League Baseball players have no representation whatsoever. There's some folks who are considering putting together a minor league union. And one of the reasons that unions wind up evolving is because people just aren't being treated fairly in the first place. And I think maybe that's part of what we're having here.
Yeah, and there was an article they wrote in The Athletic, Brittany Garoli, about, I believe that's how you say the name. I apologize if that's wrong. About how, like, in the offseason, some of these minor leaguers, they can't do simple things like go to the doctors or go to the grocery store just because they simply don't have enough money. And a bunch of the stuff she lists in this article, it doesn't sound like a fun way to live your life.
You know, it's why you're working maybe in minor leagues, maybe 5-6 months a year. So, and during that time, you're having to give 100% of your time. You know, it's not an hourly job. While you're there during certain hours, the expectation is that you're continuing to hone your craft. You're continuing to get better. And if that means that you're doing pitch outside the regular hours or schedule, that's expected of you. And if you want to grow, you know, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and they have to contend their time training with actual jobs. And in that article, Donnie Sellers, he would work weekends during the off season, washing semis, or other guys, they would work like construction, or another guy, he worked at a furniture store hauling stuff around. And he said that, like, that was great because it was physical work, but it put him behind in his training and ended up putting him behind at the start of camp. I mean, what's the point of this? If you're not going to help guys reach their full potential, what's the point of the minor leagues?
Well, the minor leagues is just basically a field of undeveloped talent that they're going to use, like I said, I think almost as fodder for those that have the most promise. So I just shouldn't expect anything more than that. But let's take a look a little bit at the housing policy, because that's something new. And looking at some of the things that this is from MLB.com, came out November 18th, 2021. It said 90% of players will be provided housing, and talking about minor leagues, to begin in 2022 season. As a continuation of their commitment to a first-class player development system, Major League Baseball's owners today announced a new minor league housing policy that is expected to provide more than 90% of assigned minor league players across every level with furnished housing accommodations at each major league club's expense, beginning with the 2022 season. You and I talked about this possibility and some of maybe the flexibility that they had with that. 90% of them, they're going to go ahead and provide some sort of service. I don't know if it's because others have other arrangements or what that other 10% is all about, but it's going to be interesting to see what that's like. Let's see, going further into that announcement from MLB. Let's see. The completed 2021 season, which was the first to take place under the new model for player development, announced this past February. They saw an increase in improved facilities and reduced in-season travel as initial steps. I don't know what they're doing to reduce the travel. Maybe I think they broke up some of the leagues that have closer proximity to one another, which is a good thing if that's indeed what was done. I haven't looked at it closely enough to know.
I believe that's what they did.
So we'll take that as a win. And I don't know why I'm so suspect of MLB. I don't want to be that way, but history's kind of dictated a suspicious nature for me when I look at anything coming from them.
You're not the only one that thinks that, because I mean, looking at our notes here, you put a guy named Kenny Rosenberg who's with the Angels. He's kind of poking holes in it because everybody kind of like agrees that a part of the lawsuits that the rules are a little too broad.
Yeah.
And he's saying that they can just say, okay, here's your apartment, or you're on your own paying elsewhere. And he said that he can't do that because he has a wife and kid on the way, and he can't really have roommates. And if they want to pay for, or if they want like their own house, he's worried that they're going to have to pay for it themselves and that the team won't pay for it. And if the team pays for it, they're going to stick them with a roommate when, I mean, I don't have kids. That's probably not the best idea.
Well, there you go, Brandon. I mean, the thing about that is obviously that it's not going to be family friendly. It's not going to be family friendly. Working with teams and trying to get housing for minor league players. I would have been surprised if they'd taken that extra step, to be quite honest with you. It's like if you want to play in the minor league baseball leagues, you got to treat it like summer camp. You got to treat it like you're going away to serve your country. And service people, I apologize. I'm not trying to make really any kind of correlation between those two things, except the expectation is that baseball player should not expect any more than barracks and a place to sleep. Now, obviously, we're stepping up maybe a little bit above that, but not much.
Yeah, I don't know much about the military. I'm not in the military and probably will never be in the military. But from what I've gathered, the stuff they do, like the bare minimum through boot camp and all the trainings, it seems like all of that's for a reason. Baseball's only reason for doing the minimum seems like they're just trying to save money.
Yeah. So we're going to see what comes from that. I don't know, brother. This is also from MLB talking about all the things that they're doing to help the players. It says, quote, the owners went into our first season modernizing the player development system, focused on addressing long-standing issues that have impacted minor league players for decades. As part of the new system, owners increased salaries from 38 to 72% for 2021. Well, that sounds good. Is much needed. We just want to make sure you're also paying them when they're there for spring training. Improved facilities, provided more amenities and better clubhouse conditions, removed all clubhouse dues, and reduced in-season travel with better geographical alignment, which we just talked about, said Morgan Sword, MLB's Executive Vice President of Baseball Operations. Removed all clubhouse dues. You have any idea what that is?
I thought clubhouse dues, I can't speak today. I thought clubhouse dues were a part of like a country club, like your dues to stay there. I never heard of a thing like this in a professional sport.
Now we'll have to talk about it on another show because I have no idea what that was. But I'm glad if there were dues that they removed them from the minor league players while they were there. It goes on to say, owners knew that a change of this scale always meant that more work would need to be done to achieve our shared goals. This step forward recognizes that the unprecedented nature of the past 2 years has further exacerbated affordable housing challenges across the country that existed before the pandemic. The owners are confident that this investment will help ensure that minor league players have every opportunity to achieve their dreams of becoming major leaguers. Oof. So we're going to give you the opportunity to become a major leaguer, but we don't really think you're going to be that fantastic. You're just going to be fodder. So you're going to have to pony. You're going to have to not be paid while you're training. All right.
Yeah, that's going to help with morale around the clubhouse.
Yeah.
But speaking of clubhouse, I did find out what clubhouse due is.
What is that?
And this is, according to Reddit from 2016, he just says that the clubhouse dues are basically tips for a team that they leave for the clubhouse manager. That's what it is. But the dues for major league players were eliminated part of the CBA that went into effect in 2017. So at least for MLB players, that doesn't seem relevant anymore.
I can't imagine that a minor league player would be paying any kind of due or tip, being paid nothing much in the first place. Wow.
They can't even afford doctor's appointments. How are they going to afford to tip their clubhouse manager?
I don't know. I'm looking for good things. I'm hoping really things are going to turn around for these guys. In 2022, looking a little bit more further in this document from MLB. Let's see. During the 2021 season, clubs provided some housing assistance to players at the PDL and spring training complex levels. The new 2022 program will be all-encompassing. What does that mean? They're going to, in order to be compliant with this new system, the 2022 minor league housing policy clubs must provide housing accommodation options located at a reasonable commutable distance from the ballpark. Bedrooms, here we go, man. Bedrooms must contain a single bed per player, and there should be no more than 2 players per bedroom at all levels. Accommodations must be furnished, and clubs will be responsible for basic utility bills at club-provided living arrangements. To the extent that apartments, rental homes, or host families are not feasible at a PD level, clubs may choose to provide hotel rooms that satisfy standards put in place. The housing policy will only apply to players under a minor league uniform player contract. Here's the thing. Okay, like host families. Suddenly my mind's going back to the Cape Cod leagues. When you look at, they're putting up players 3 or 4 or 5 in a basement, during a season. So host families, is that really still a thing as part of this new process MLB's put into play?
It's stuff that I've heard happens, especially in like junior hockey leagues, like around Canada, because some of those teams play in like really small towns. And a lot of these kids are like 16, 17 years old in a foreign country. So they put them with host families while they're there in hopes of making the NHL. So that's something it's still around.
Well, I think it's helpful if you've got someone, that's a good point. If you've got someone who English isn't their first language and they're coming to play in Major League Baseball here in the States, that if you have a host family that could can converse with that young man in their native tongue, I get that. I think that's great if they have that. But outside of that, I don't really see in necessity to have that. Hey, one thing I do see with the minor leagues, they are trying to step up and be like the major leagues. Right now during the MLB lockout, one of the things I think you and I talked about before, are they doing drug testing in the major leagues?
In the majors, they were up until, I believe, about 2 weeks ago. Even during the lockout, up until a couple weeks ago, they were still testing guys for PEDs.
Well, here's an interesting one too. It just came out about February 11th. This is from an ESPN article, and they're talking about 5 more minor leaguers have been suspended because they failed their drug test. So now there's like up to 14 players in the minor leagues who've been suspended. So obviously the testing's going on with those folks. See, they got pitchers Joe Flores of Colorado, Lenny Polanco and Jesus Tovar of Minnesota, and Alan Ramirez of Miami were suspended for 60 games each Friday following positive tests for the PED substance stenozolol. Okay, under baseball's minor league drug program. All 4 are assigned to the Dominican Summer League. So, they're actually testing them, I guess, over there during that as well. Plus, San Francisco Giants pitcher Austin Reich was suspended for 50 games following a positive test for amphetamine, a banned stimulant. He is assigned to a high A West team in Eugene, I believe. Anyway, so now you got over 14 players who've been suspended because of all this in the minor leagues. And I'm fine with that. I mean, I really am. This is something we're talking about, people who are fighting to get it up there to get to the major leagues. Some think it's a necessity to use performance enhancing drugs to get there. And that's unfortunate. But if it's illegal, it's shame on you, because that means you're trying to get an advantage that your brother who's abiding by the rules is not. And you're not going to climb up on his back without being punished.
Yeah, and especially at the minors. I mean, everybody's trying to do the best they can to make it to the show, as they call it. But I don't think you should be using any enhancers to give you an unfair advantage over somebody who's doing it the right way. And I'd like to think that everybody that makes it is clean, but I mean, being realistic, it's probably not true. It's a little too idealistic instead of realistic.
Yeah, I'm with you. I get that. It saddens me anytime I see this, but I get it. And I'm glad that they actually are, there's some punitive action taken so that it'll reduce the amount of people that are going to do that, and they don't get an advantage over the other players.
Yeah, but hopefully it doesn't really mess up any of their chances to make it to the show if they actually do become clean and they don't take any more enhancers, because I don't really want somebody's career ruined over this in the minors.
No.
I don't know how old these guys are, but they're probably just kids.
Yeah, and God knows people make mistakes. So a little forgiveness, people. Yes, go ahead and maybe do a punitive action now, but welcome them back and help them, to be the player that they need to be. Well, Brandon, I want to apologize again for leaving you there, man. I'll be out there waiting in the driveway for me to pick you up. But I couldn't get my tickets. I tried StubHub and everything else. And, some of those I'd actually bought in advance for spring training. And they said they'd give me credit for some future tickets, when the season starts. So I guess they can hold on to my money till then. I apologize for leaving you out there, but hey, we're getting stuck. I don't know what else to do. Evidently, it's not just you and I this is happening to. As far as an issue with tickets, I know our buddy in Boston, Gordo, he's up there talking and saying that the Red Sox are having some difficulty selling tickets for this season. I know you found that out the other day. What were some of the numbers that he was seeing?
Yeah, according to him, he said that their ticket sales are currently down 20 to 30% compared to this time last year. And that came from President Sam Kennedy. And he put some context with it that the Red Sox were coming off a last place finish, and the uncertainty with COVID, I almost said Conan. And even with the White Sox, they're having trouble. This comes from Giordano's Thin Crust Pizza. He's an insider with the White Sox, and Sarah Sanchez retweeted this, and that got my attention. And he put, a source in the White Sox front office has said the lack of ticket sales is definitely being felt by owners. Fans not buying tickets due to the lockout could help be a driving force to getting a deal done. And once players start losing paychecks, those talks will move swiftly.
Ooh.
So that could be something worth watching.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. But I see the White Sox had some other challenges as well. And this was a case of ticket scalping. I don't know how well ticket scalping is going to go right now. I was looking at kind of an idea and header for this part of the show. I was thinking, we'll call it ticket scalping, martial arts, fraud, and alcohol. Okay. Ticket scalping, martial arts, fraud, and alcohol. So how do all these things come together with the White Sox? Well, first off, a gentleman who had been scalping tickets, and that's kind of a general world. We'll get into what all that meant in a minute. What his name was Bruce Lee. Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
I thought he was no longer with us.
He's the martial arts gentleman, isn't. And I think this guy should apologize to the original Bruce Lee and his family for having had this kind of behavior and the name Bruce Lee being attached to this. Anyway, Lee faced sentencing after being found guilty on several counts of wire fraud based on, dig this, 34,876 fraudulently obtained White Sox tickets during the 2016 through 2019 baseball seasons. Well, that's more the fans than you'd have at a regular race day season.
Oh, it was there. I just didn't want to say it.
Oh, you're kind. But he was found guilty like on wire fraud because the way he did this is, I don't know all the particulars, but imagine that if you have an outdoor stadium field and that because the game was either called or you need to really bring fans another time and you had rain that day, you put together a special promotion and basically, where how you go ahead and you have to put in a certain code to get a break on the price. Well, that's what this is about. So he's doing this and he's reselling these tickets. Let's hit a couple of points on his trial. One of the things, this is, I think, from Chicago Times here, Sun-Times, his Lee's trial involved the betrayal of the Sox by a decades-long employee, a secret recording at a pizza place near Sox Park, and a brazen plan to take advantage of the Southsiders' complimentary and discount ticket programs. Now, in trying to talk about this, so ahead of the sentence hearing, Lee's lawyers made the eye-catching argument that the Sox actually benefited from Lee's scheme. He said, because what happened is all those fake tickets that he sold and people got in there, because those fans, they came to the ballpark and they spent money. They came in there and they spent money on food and alcohol. So there's the alcohol portion that he actually generated more income for the White Sox than they would have had otherwise if he didn't do this.
It sounds like an argument a little kid would make if they do something bad. Like, well, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it helped, right?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned a little kid, but the guy who was found guilty, Bruce Lee, he told the judge, let's see here in the article, told the judge of his work as a ticket broker helped him rise up out of a difficult childhood. I know. From sporting events and concerts and theater, I found a good, honest profession that I excelled at, he said. And he said he saw the White Sox ticket sales as part of that. I was fooling myself and I should have known better. Well, if you should, you should have known better. But evidently, the law says you should as well. So I don't know, man. You sell a few more beers, but that ain't the way to do it.
Am I a bad person for thinking that this is kind of goofy?
Oh, this is goofy. This would have markings for a goofy gobbler award.
Early nominee.
That's right. He put this one in one of those categories, man. Let's see. Oh, yeah. He said the tickets he sold had a market value of between $1 million and $1.2 million. Wow.
We got a real Marty Bird on our hands here. And if you haven't seen Ozarks, I definitely watch it. But don't watch it with kids in the room because it might not be the best thing. But definitely watch it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. That's definitely not with small children. But yeah, it does sound like a deal laundering some money here, boys and girls. But that's not actually what happened. But it has that same kind of feel. Let's see here. The Sox data. Oh, I like this. The Sox's data analytics team flagged Lee as a StubHub seller who had sold more White Sox tickets than anyone else by a substantial margin. And the team approached the FBI in October 2018. The analytics team also thought Lee might have had inside help. Analytics team, you think it's the same guys checking out how many RBIs you got?
It is.
Oh, Lord. Oh, let's see. A separate affidavit described an interview with a Sox employee who told the feds he and Lee had realized in 2017 that a bad weather ticket program for fans had opened the door for tickets to be printed without the White Sox knowledge or consent using the computer code RAIN17. I printed more Sox tickets free of charge with the RAIN17 code for Bruce Lee than any other code, the employee told the FBI. Oh, this is like a bad comedy spy movie or something. I don't know. Get smarter. Somebody should be making this.
I'm out of things to say, to be honest. Then that's my job, is to find out what things to say.
Well, maybe we should stop the show with that, because this just talks about the insanity of things that are going on in the business of baseball. That's what we do here at Baseball Biz. Whether we're talking about something a bit more serious about paying minor league players when they're there actually at spring training and providing them with reasonable housing while you're doing that, or something as goofy as this for the White Sox. We're going to reach out to Nick Morawski, and ask him, how that's impacted him and all the other fans. And we want to send our apologies out to Bruce Lee and his family for this insanity that this fella did with a gentleman with the same name. My gosh. Geez. Yeah. I'll read one last. Go ahead. Yeah, I'll read one last part of this. The tickets had a market. I think said some of this before. Tickets had a market value between $1 million and $1.2 million. Authorities said. However, U.S. District Judge Matthew Kinley ordered Lee to pay $455,229 in forfeiture. He said restitution of the case at only $74,650 because the at-issue tickets were discounted, and that was the only number that is supported by evidence. Oh, gosh.
How much money he made?
I don't know. But
if you're going to get arrested for this, at least make some good money.
Yeah. I'm sure that they came in and nabbed whatever he may have had in the bank. And this whole idea about wire fraud, that's pretty ugly. So, oh boy. Well, you got any other goodies we need to share with our folks this week?
No, I think Bruce Lee just took my words away.
Okay. Well, Brandon, I know we remarked earlier about the service people, and I do want to send out our thanks to all the service people that all they've done for us, and also the healthcare workers. We sometimes forget that, with COVID seeming not to be at the forefront of mind all the time, but all of these people do so much for us in this country. And I want to say thank you to all of them.
Yeah, even though two geniuses that we are, Wymon and microphones, there are bigger problems in the world.
Amen.
That people have to go and deal with face to face.
So thank you. And Brandon, you want to take us out of here?
Yeah, thank you for listening, everybody. Remember, like, rate, review, subscribe as well. Listen to old podcasts too if you'd like. And you brought up a Goofy Gobblers. Those are always good to go back and listen to.
Yeah.
And we're getting close to about the quarter of the way back to the Goofy Gobblers. Might even be more.
Oh my gosh. Well, it looks like we're going to have plenty to work with, brother. I tell you. And I want to remind people too, we're going to have another episode coming out here shortly, and it's going to be on FSU, Florida State, their softball team, as they're beginning the new softball season this past week. And it's a little different for us, but without actually any spring training going on, we do want to spotlight where some exciting games are being played and how you can enjoy them.
Yeah, go support your college softball, college baseball teams, and even some minor league teams if you have some nearby.
Yeah.
Get some baseball in.
There you go. Okay. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us here today on Baseball Biz. And again, you can find Brandon where can they find you at Sports Blitz Pod. Oh, go ahead.
Yep. That's correct.
Okay. Find you at Sports Blitz Pod. They find me, Mark, at the Baseball Biz, both of us on Twitter. And we look forward to any questions, answers, anything else you'd like to send us. We'll put that in the mailbag. And like I said, you can find us also on Spotify. Did I say Spotify? Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I guess I can say that now. iHeartRadio. So thanks again for joining us today. And we look forward to talking with you guys again real soon. Special thanks to X-Take. Yeah. Special thanks to X-Take RUX for the music rocking forward.
That's just terrible. Terrible basketball.